Getting slammed. Crunch time. The gauntlet. We've all been there. Every freelancer knows what it's like to be in a deadline crunch. There's not enough time in the day, there are not enough hours, and there's too much work, and you're running up against that deadline and you're freaking out. Basically, your whole life kind of collapses around the work that you're doing. And that sort of becomes the only thing that seems to matter, while your health, your mental health, your physical health, and your relationships, and kind of your whole life suffers because of it for a period of time, hopefully. Now, what if I told you that that actually doesn't have to be like that? That there are frameworks and methods and approaches you can use to avoid having your life collapse like a dying star into the black hole of this deadline. Because I've been there for last year. I was working on multiple projects at the same time. I had enormous amounts of music to write, and I felt the pressure. And for a while, I was pulling all-nighters, and it was getting kind of crazy because I was trying to keep up my old lifestyle without really changing anything, and it just wasn't working. I was getting more and more tired, more and more worn out. My creative muscles were starting to get stretched too far, and I just wasn't really enjoying myself. So I decided to take a little bit of time and think about what I was doing and maybe there's a different way of doing it. So here's my busy freelancer survival toolkit. Things you're going to need and the habits to make your life more enjoyable and even balanced while you're in the middle of a deadline crunch. So the first thing I think is we need to change our attitude about this idea that we don't have enough time. One of the first things that I did when I looked at this deadline crunch that I was in and the amount of work I had to do was I changed my schedule. That was the first thing I changed. And that would be one of the first things I'd invite you to take a look at for yourself. We've all heard of the 9 to 5. Well, I started doing the 5 to 9. So I'd get up at 5 in the morning and I'd stop working anywhere between 7 and 9 p.m. What that meant for me and what that changed was it seemed to magically open up all these new hours of the day that were available to me. What I quickly realized was, first of all, when you have those first hours in the morning where no one else is awake, emailing you, phoning you, or doing anything else, those are really your hours. It takes me a little while to get going in the morning, so I really like to sit with a very inspiring book or listen to a great podcast or something, drink my coffee and just slowly get the engine going. And then I naturally just feel this creative energy welling up inside and I know it's go time. And that's usually when I can have the best chance of getting into a flow state, which of course is exactly where you want to be when you're in a deadline crunch. You don't want to be thinking too much about what you're going to make. You just want to get down and make it fast. So let's stop, believing in this trap that there isn't enough time. You can make time, and that's really what it's about. This is within your control. The thing we all fall into the trap of is at the end of the day, we go downstairs or we go to wherever our den is, and we get that clicker and we start watching TV and just, that's it, you're done. If you back that into the beginning part of your day, you're saying that's another 3 hours of potential creative time that you could be using. So the next couple of tips are health related. And I know this is not really the most sexy topic, but it's true. Everything that happens in your work is because of this old bad boy inside here. And this beast needs, above all else, energy and water. So, I think hydration. I got one of these big things right here sitting on my desk at all times full of water, and I am trying as best as I can to hydrate it as much as possible. It's amazing how many physical ailments like muscle soreness, tension, headaches, fuzziness, and all this are actually created because you're dehydrated. Most of us don't realize that we're dehydrated because we don't feel thirsty. Dehydration doesn't necessarily mean, hey, I feel thirsty. It just, you get all these other things and you wonder what's wrong with you and you start taking pills or, going to a doctor for other things, which you may not even need to do. Just drink some more water. It's going to do you so much good, and it's a easy fix. The second thing is you really don't want to neglect your physical health. Actually, sitting in front of a computer or sitting down, they say, is the new smoking. And I know, again, it's cliche, but it's a very unhealthy habit to have. And you're going to start suffering all sorts of physical ailments if you don't keep your body in good shape while you're doing this fairly gnarly task of sitting in front of a computer for all hours of the day, working away. So, but of course, one of the complaints again is I don't have enough time. I can't get down to the gym. It takes me like an hour to get ready and to change and to shower and to get down to the gym, and then I work out for an hour and a half. By the time I get back, all this time and energy has been expended. And people, they're not going to argue against, being physically fit, but they say that's a real impingement to that. Well, I got an answer for you. I needed something, I was doing sort of workouts on my own for a long time, and they were just kind of all over the place. I didn't have a good plan, and I realized, I just need directives. I need someone who's an expert to tell me what to do and when to do it. Oh, caveat here, by the way, I'm getting paid nothing by anyone that I'm suggesting or any company or product. This is just stuff that I found worked for me, and that's why I'm recommending it. So here's my first recommendation. This is called Body Weight Strength Training by J. Cardiello. You can look it up on Amazon or wherever you also want to get it. It's 12 weeks to build muscle and burn fat. Now, a little bit of false advertising. You're not going to look like this guy at the end of it. This isn't some sort of like weightlifting super strength training program. It's really just about maintaining and getting into good shape, cardiovascular shape. It's high intensity interval training. And here's the great part. It requires no equipment. I do use a yoga mat for some of the stuff where you're lying down or sitting down, so I would recommend that. But beyond that, you don't need any extraneous stuff. You're not paying for anything extra. You're not using complicated weights or pulley systems or anything like that. This has kept me in shape for the last year. These daily workouts take between 12 and 20 minutes to do. So that means I just run downstairs, I put on my gear, and I come back up to the studio where I actually do all my workouts. I put out the yoga mat. 12 minutes to 20 minutes later, I am completely blasted, I'm sweating, and I'm done. Don't let it fool you to say, oh wow, only 20 minutes, it must not be a good workout. If you push as hard as you can for 20 minutes, it'll feel like an hour and a half. Great way to get a workout in without spending a ton of time or money on a gym membership. All right, so the energy for this big bad boy up here, right? Cooking takes time. And it also takes planning and processing. You have to go shopping and do all these things. Well, I came across something that you may be aware of already, but I didn't know how amazing this thing. It is absolutely magic. This is an Instant Pot. This thing is changing my life. It's the only cooking hack I know. The one thing about cooking is if you want to make really great tasting food, it just takes a lot of time for all the flavors to mingle and balance out. And, if you're on a time crunch schedule and you don't have somebody that's cooking for you, like, a partner who's taking a bullet on your behalf, or a mate if you have that kind of money, why are you even watching this video? This thing takes that time. You can take dry beans and you can get cooked beans in 20 minutes. That's crazy. The taste of the food that comes out of this thing is just mind-blowing. I made recipes I've been making for 20 years in this thing, and it was like I'd never made it before. Restaurant quality is just because it smashes that time that it would take to make these things into a fraction of what it would take. So you're going to be eating delicious, healthy, homemade food that you can prepare in advance. So something you might consider doing is, on a Sunday, you and your partner, if you have one, go grocery shopping, plan the whole week's meals out, do all of your prep on one day, and then have everything stored away in Tupperwares, and then make your stuff in this Instant Pot. It's going to take almost no time at all, especially if you've got your onions diced and all your vegetables prepared. Just slam it in there. 20 minutes later, you're going to have this incredible meal. You're going to feel good. It's going to be healthy. And that's something you're going to need while you're going through this punishing process of trying to meet the deadline. So social media is good and bad. It has its place. It can be really useful. It can be fun sometimes, but as we all know, it can have a depressive effect, and it's definitely a time suck, and it can be addictive, and you can be sort of reaching for that, Instagram or the Facebook every 10 minutes, and you find those diminishing returns in terms of your ability to concentrate and focus. And you're also not going to be very creative if you're constantly doing the squirrel attention thing, and you're getting more and more depressed because of how everyone's curated life looks so much better than yours, and or just getting upset by bad news that you see on social media all the time. So, in addition to creating those blockers or using blockers to, try and get rid of that, make sure that you also have really great inputs. Like be reading really great books or listening to great podcasts. So when you have some downtime and you want to take breaks, make sure you get up and stretch, make sure you walk around, take a nice lunch break, make sure that you're not just working constantly and mindlessly. When you feel your energy drop or you're just like smashing your head against the wall, take a walk, get outside. Take a break, read something, listen to some great music, or do something completely other than what you're doing, so that you're not getting bogged down in your own, just the computer and yourself and wrestling with these ideas without having any good input, right? Like have a really inspiring book. Take some time, especially in the morning, to set the tone of what your day is going to look like, and you're just going to feel so much better overall for it. And finally, again, this flies against this idea that you have in your head that you don't have time for this when you're in a crunch mode. Make the time. So you're going to get up at 5 and you've got all these other systems working for you. You're not going to be able to tell me anymore that you don't have the time for this. Time for family, time for friends, time for some fun, time to take in something good and meaningful in your life that gives you energy back, so that when you go back to the editing desk or back to making your music or whatever it is that you're doing, you're going to feel energized and inspired again. If you're just looking at a screen constantly and facing problems and challenges and the pressures of having to complete a deadline, you're going to run out of juice. I don't care how well you're eating or how much you're hydrating or keeping your body in shape. You need some good inputs. So in addition to your books and your podcasts and everything, see your friends. I mean, please do this. This is the thing that everyone seems to neglect. Friends and family, all these people that can really help you and lift you up much better than social media and all this crap, which is not really connecting with people, right? You want to genuinely connect with people. Go to a museum. Go see a great film. Go do something fun that enriches you, makes you feel great, so that when you come back, you're inspired, you're energized, and you're ready to go. You're going to save so much time with this. I tell you, it happened for me. I kept up and I felt like I had a balanced life. Yeah, there was pressure, but the stress actually felt good. It felt like I was doing stuff. I was moving ahead. The gears were going. I felt great. I felt like a long distance runner. It was just like, I've got this flow and I've got this like runner's high. I just felt really great because I was paying attention to all these different things and not letting the rest of my life. That's it. You're trying to continue to live your life while you are working out these deadlines. Because the worst thing that could happen, of course, is it's just one deadline after another and you just continue like this and years go by and you go, my God, I completely forgot to live my life. And that would be a real shame indeed, especially if it had a negative impact on family, friends, and your just general intake of good things in life as opposed to a constant focus on just working. All right, so that's it. That's my busy freelancer's survival toolkit when you're in a deadline crunch. I really hope that you take some of these things to heart and that you put them into practice, because I know from experience that it did amazing work for me. It paid massive dividends. I felt balanced. I felt good. I felt excited and passionate about what I was doing. It never got me down. I didn't look back on the year and think, my God, it was just stress and work all the time. And I did really well. Again, if you look at my goal setting video, I talk about how I just felt amazing about the last year and how much I got done. I wasn't slacking off. I was getting at 5 a.m.s and finishing in between 7 and 9. I was still eating well, I was staying healthy, I was staying fit, and I was staying in touch in a meaningful way with my friends, my family, and my loved ones. And that was something that I can look back on with pride and know that going forward, it's going to be one of the biggest things to keep me going. So I really hope you guys find this useful and put it into practice, and don't fall into that timeline trap that says you don't have enough time, because it's just not true, especially if you use these frameworks. All right, much love to you all, and I'll see you guys in the next one.